Welcome everyone to The Rift. I am your co-host, Jeremy Culver, aka Darsay.
And I am Kairu, Kyle Gloria.
And Kyle, we were talking a little bit before we started this recording, talking a little bit about, of course, the history of The Rift and our longevity of doing it. And when the last episode aired, it has been over a year ago since we last recorded an episode. But that all changes today because a new one is obviously right here at you. So, Kyle, as we start every show, it's been over a year, even though me and you have continued to talk across that, but the viewers don't know. How have you been?
I've been excellent, really good. As you said, it's been a long time, but, busy lives, it happens. I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves right, though, the last time we did do a show, it was the start of, Rumorville of last season, so it feels wonderful to get this going again. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I definitely think it was, only because I'm looking at the episode and I named it "Oh, the Moves We'll Make." So that clearly tells me we're talking about the rumor mill, which means, hey guys, 1 year later, it's rumor mill time. But before we get there, let's kind of pick up some things that we haven't done in a while. So first, for anyone that doesn't know, if you're tuning in for the first time, thank you so much for stopping into The Rift. This is a show that is strictly dedicated, of course, to League of Legends and Summoner's Rift. So we'll be talking about, on this episode, our thoughts about the Grand World Finals that just wrapped up, how we thought the series went, if there should be any necessary changes to the format, anything of that nature. And then we'll get, knuckle deep into all of the rumors that are flying out there about what is coming up on Free Agency Day. And Kyle, I know you have been just overly enjoying. I mean, you don't even wearing a hat today because you're losing your hat from how happy you are about this. And I know this is something in every sport Kyle is happy about, whether it is League of Legends, football, basketball, hockey. He always, free agency hits, he's excited. So we have a lot to talk about. Kyle, let's kind of get these things kicked off because I know that people are dying to start hearing our thoughts on things. But let's talk a little bit about Worlds and the finals. So, your thoughts on the fact that FPX takes home the Summoner's Rift trophy over G2, a 3-0 stop when arguably G2 was considered the heavy favorites heading into that.
Oh, definitely. G2 looked excellent throughout the entire Worlds, and it's crazy how well FPX played. It's just, I think the heavy favorites came about because FPX had a much easier road to the finals, considering they probably were in the easiest bracket, and G2 had to go through 3 Korean teams to get here. But I think that has a lot to say, though, at the same time, on how FBX was able to exploit G2's problems, where other teams could not because of the way their play style is compared to LPL's play style. And I think that was a big factor in these grand finals.
Yeah, I think that was huge, and it also showed, I would say, the importance of the early game, because all through the group stages, all the way to the knockout stages, and of course into the finals, G2, as much of being a dominating team in the way they were, especially during the LEC, they just were very slow to start games that entire Worlds run, and FPX was arguably a really good early game team all through the Worlds run, and of course those kind of styles came to a head in the finals, and I think it shows that, if no matter how good your team is, ultimately if you fall behind too much in the early game, you dig yourself too big of a hole to come out of. And I think that's where FPX really thrived, was with G2's lack of being able to stop the snowball from happening so early that FPX was then able to dominate the map, dominate the matches, and I was really surprised to see the 3-0. I personally picked FPX to win. I thought that they would, but I thought it was going to be a 3-2 series. I thought it was going to be very close, and it was going to be basically like, flipping a coin on that final game who was actually going to win. And with G2's dominance all season long, I kind of was thinking, I wouldn't be surprised if G2 won. I just thought FPX was better. So when, of course, living in the North American Central Time, when I woke up and I saw G2 was already down 2-0 and Game 3 was starting, I quickly, turned on the TV to watch the third game, thinking, well, at least I've caught the last 3 games. And the way the third game shaped out, it was, wow, no, FPX, had their foot on the pedal and didn't let up the entire time. So very surprising on how that turned out. So was there anything like with you watching that game that you thought could have been, I guess, a bright, shining moment to turn things around for G2, or even like something that, I hate saying these because of the athlete in me and the competitor in me, but the moral victory that they could take away from that series?
It ended up just being too late, but by Game 3, G2 did finally go towards more of a scaling comp, and I think that started helping him out a little bit. But by then, it just felt too late. FPX just started dominating, and Doinby, man, that dude, he's on another level of play. Like, with this season's mid lane, man, he deserves everything he has gotten because that dude is unbelievable. But by the time they finally started to figure things out, it felt like picking more of a scaling comp to help him out later, it was just too late. Like, FPX just had all the momentum in the world to finish that off. And, it's crazy. They FPX did excellent with banning out Rek'Sai each game. Mm-hmm. But G2 still let them pick Lee Sin all 3 games. And that Lee Sin play was top-notch as well.
Yeah, a stark contrast to the Lee Sin play we saw in the past from NA players. But definitely lights out. I know a lot of people are excited to see what the new skins are going to be for FPX and what champions they choose. I don't remember which player it was, but I do remember one of the players told Theon heading into the finals, before they had, of course, won, and they were just saying, if you won, what champion would you want your skin on? And I think I don't remember who it was, but he said essentially, I think I should get 2. And he named off Kaisa and somebody else, I can't remember, and I just kind of cracked up off of that. So, I can't wait to see the skins. The skins are always really cool, and how they do the designs. And, of course, the back animations are always funny, just whatever the guys want to do. So we'll see how that goes. Kyle, going off of that, though, there was a big discussion heading into the finals, and, of course, it was asked after the finals, was the idea, and, for people who, what I'm about to say is a little confusing, but I'll try to explain it as best as I can, is the idea of going to multiple games for the finals. So, of course, we all know that we play a best of 5 in the finals. So you technically play, at the very least, 3 games. But in this sense, those would be matches. And it's a best of 5 series with a then actual best of 2, best of 2, best of 3, I should say, to actually win, giving people, I guess, multiple or different days where maybe they're just having a bad day, they could come back and possibly win 2 in a row to actually win the cup. Something similar to what Overwatch does, and Riot has already said they have no interest in doing that. They are not planning to do it at all. So idea is effectively dead. But I do want to ask you, Kyle, with that being said, let's say Riot didn't say that yet. Do you see any viability from this or any reason to make this kind of change?
For League itself, no. I just feel like matches are too long. I mean, they can last an hour. So essentially, as you said, it's a reset, is what it is. If for any of the fighting uh fan community and stuff, you understand there's a loser bracket. It's basically doing that without having to lose a bracket, but it's a reset.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta go back and you get another chance. But I just feel like in League games are just too long to be able to do something like that. I feel though what an option they should consider then, if they kind of want to try to give the other team a little bit more of a chance, is you're doing best of fives throughout the at the end there, the knockout stage and whatnot, especially when you get to the final semifinals and what have you. Why not make the grand finals the best of seven instead? Like just up it a couple games, two more games. Instead of just the five, do maybe seven. I think that can help out a little bit because, like I said before, G2 felt like they were finally like catching on what they need to change. If you add two more games, maybe that would help out a little bit. But a whole reset feels like that could just extend it just a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that, like, as you said, is every game that long? No, but they
No.
could be that long. And if you try to do multiple days, like the season's already long, Worlds itself, through the play-in, the group stages, the knockout stages, that takes a lot of time itself as well. So I think that just would make it too long as a whole. And I agree also that if they are going to look at anything, it would be going to like a best of seven. Adding the two extra possible games, yes, makes that day longer, but I would agree, or I would, say that essentially they should look at the fact of it's the finals for a reason. So if that needs to play a little bit longer, let it play longer. The knockout stages, completely understand. Keep it best of five, if anything. Just because, yes, you usually have, multiple people playing on those days. But when it comes to the finals, you look at like the World Series, for instance, if we're going to, use any references for baseball or basketball, those are best of sevens. And they stretch it out for that reason, is because they want to make sure across the board that the best team possible wins. And of course, that doesn't always happen, but that's the idea. So if you're going to do anything, you could add two extra games, but I don't agree with, doing the multiple days, the resets type of things, the double elimination, so to speak, because that's just too much, too long, too much time taken in, as much as I would enjoy it, but too much.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, Worlds is done. So, Kyle, it's a long off season, but there is that one shining moment, that one bright spot that comes every off season, and that is the preseason patch, right? No, we're talking about free agency and where players are going to go, where they're going to be next year. Are we going to see more NA players in EU and NA? Are we going to see any EU or NA be the first players moving over to, LPL, LCK? We'll see. Don't know. But there's a lot of rumors circulating, a lot of them out there. Kyle, I know you, again, have been really diving deep into all these rumors, even letting me know about more rumors that I didn't even know about. So, Kyle, we'll start with you. What is so far the biggest rumor that comes to mind or that you want to discuss when it comes to the free agency?
Man, there's so many. It's hard to pick one to start with, but I would say the biggest rumor right now that I've recently come across, which I still don't think likelihood it's not going to happen. But there's been a lot of talks about Upset talking to Cloud9. I know it's my team. I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but that would be massive, a massive pickup to be able to receive Upset. I believe Origin is the other team that obviously that people are for sure he's going to end up going to. But it's just if Upset makes that move to NA and does come to Cloud9, it's a huge pickup, and it's something that Jack doesn't usually do. Like if C9, if some of these rumors around C9 happen with these bigger pickups,
Mm-hmm.
it's a complete difference from what they normally do with being very budget friendly, bringing in players to develop them, and they always compete and stuff. So making a big splash like that would definitely be massive for Cloud9.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it with you before in the past. I'm sure if you guys go back to any of the recent episodes, of course they've been a year, 2 years now. You'll hear me say this, and I say it with knowing your thoughts on it, which is I like Sneaky. I think Sneaky is a really good player. I think he is not, I would say, like the problem when it comes to did C9, like why did C9 not perform very well or perform as well as possibly the expectations were at Worlds. But I do agree with what you have said in the past, and I do agree in this thought moving forward, which is you do kind of need or want that person in the ADC role to be able to take over a game if needed, yes, and if necessary. Mm-hmm. And I think at this point in his career, Sneaky is not able to do that. That doesn't make him a bad player. That doesn't make him necessarily able or like you need to move on from him. But I do think it makes you open the door, open the opportunities to what else can we get, what else can be better. And unfortunately for Sneaky, I think Upset with his potential and the way he did things in the LEC is that he could be that guy that, Kyle, you have been asking for a long time. A guy in the ADC role who can take over the game and carry the game if necessary when time, push comes to shove. Obviously similar to the way like Double Lift plays, which is Double Lift has always been that player of, of course, old school Double Lift was let me farm. Okay, it's late game. I'm going to take over now. That's Double Lift, of course, doesn't have to do that all the time now, but that's what Double Lift has always been and still continues to be is, yes, the rest of my team may not be doing as well as needed. I'm going to step it up and take over. So I think that pickup from Upset or pick up for Upset, whatever it might be, and of course, if it goes to C9, your team, you would be happy about it. I think that is definitely something that they should consider. And I know the other team that he's been linked with or rumored to be going to is TSM. So there is that chance that he still comes to NA off of that. Kyle, do I want to go into real quick because I just talked about TSM and I talked about Upset. I want to talk about my boy, who I would be very sad if this happens. Is here? Go ahead. You can already go into it. Your thoughts. Akabi going to TSM.
I was just gonna I'll let you give your thoughts first, but I want to say out of the rumors so far with the ADCs coming over here, Reckless was one of them, Upset, and Kabi. I feel Kabi is almost, like I said, it's just all rumors. Of course, none of this is confirmed or anything else, but out of all of them, I think Kabi's pretty much the closest to being a done deal from multiple sources. But go ahead and give your insight.
So my first thought is I'm so glad that Kabi is finally getting the, I guess, the acceptance of what kind of a caliber player he is. Because I know, like, from in years past, especially, of course, when Splice first got up and stuff, people thought Kabi was good, but they didn't think he was great. They thought he was, like, that middle-of-the-pack ADC. And I always said it. I know I said it to you all the time, too, which was he's way better than that. He is a really good ADC. And you know, in recent splits, he has shown that he is way better, performs out of his mind, and can be, again, similar to what we talked about with double lift and upset, that guy that if you need to put all the pressure on Kabi and he's going to perform. Um, with saying that, I personally just don't think he's a great fit for TSM. And this is the reason is until TSM shows I guess that they can consistently play a different play style than focusing all our resources to Bjergsen and letting Bjergsen actually carry and win us games. Until they can consistently show that they can play something other than that, I'm not sold that Kabi going to TSM solves anything. Especially when you look at how they ended up performing in this last split. It was a big disappointment. And people beforehand, of course, going back, when Sven was coming over and was rumored, Sven was again, top tier ADC. Mm-hmm. Like everyone thought, holy crap, Sven on TSM, they are now the top team to go after because you have Bjergsen there, you have Sven, and of course at the time you had Mithy. This team is just so stacked across the board. There's no way they can't win, and they didn't. It didn't happen. I don't know if it's just because of the different play styles here in NA versus LEC in Europe. I don't know if it's because, getting adjusted to just a different environment, but I just don't see that working with Kabi at TSM. I think Kabi's better move, if it happens, because again, there is a rumor on this, is if Reckless leaves, Kabi goes over to Fnatic. And I think that's a way better fit for Kabi. I think that does better for him long term with what he probably wants to do with where he wants his career to go. I think that's a way better move than coming across the sea and going to TSM.
I agree with that. ADCs is another one of those roles that just does not seem to work out as well, going from EU to NA. If you look at Arrow, Bang this year, Sven. We've had multiple EDCs now try to come over to NA to play, and it has not seemed to work out. And hopefully Kabe is one that could change that. Of course, it'd be for the wrong team, being TSM. We'll let that be. Same thing with Upset. If he came over here, I want these guys to succeed, and I hope they change that. The whole, ADC is not doing well over here. Mm-hmm. But depending on who their support is as well, there's kind of rumors on who's actually going to be supporting them this year as well. They've been linked to trading for Biofrost and getting, bringing him back now that he's proven that he can have a voice, and he has a lot better knowledge of the game and will speak up about what he feels needs to happen in game. Mm-hmm. And they're smoothly going over to CLG. That's been kind of a rumor that's been out there too. Kabi combo bot lane, I think could work out pretty well though. I kind of like that. And I do like Smoothie too, and I feel bad that he's kind of jumping from team to team because he's really one of the harder working NA talents that's here. He grinds all the time, which is pretty rare for it's why the meme about NA solo queue being terrible is everywhere, because it's the truth though, that we just don't take it as serious as we should. But there's a few that do, and Smoothie's one of them. But the Kabi and Bio combination would be pretty interesting to watch. And then you just got to fill out jungle, because we all know TSM and their junglers never seem to pan out. And then if they keep Broken Blade, and a lot of people are really down on Broken Blade because he didn't turn out to be what they were hoping for, but he's still young, and I think he's still a really good player. And I think people just need to give him more of a chance.
I agree with the Broken Blade thing. I think a lot of it has to deal with, it's his first full season in, NA. Um, there's a lot of pressure and expectations on him. Overall, I think the whole team underperformed. If you're going to look at just skill level wise, they technically did. And that, of course, puts even more pressure on him in the top lane. Now, I know that there were some questionable times where he was killed in lanes where you were just like, what's going on? Why are you dying in these situations? This is not something that you did before. But I think I agree with you. I think that you got to give him more time. I also think TSM kind of shot themselves in the foot because while a lot of people, of course, want to look at the junglers and of TSM and say what the heck happened, I think essentially when they had Acadian in at first, he was doing really well. It was once they were like, hey, we're going to put Grig in for a game, that's when it seemed like things went off the rails. And then when they tried to put Acadian back in, like the synergy just wasn't there anymore. And that's the thing is, TSM, they're not the same team that they were many years ago, where they were the dominant team that winning all the time. And I don't know if it's an organizational change behind the scenes that we're seeing that's causing, I guess, maybe unrealistic expectations that are not allowing players to play out. And we talked about it, of course, when the move to franchising happened, of that, teams no longer had to worry about being relegated, so they might be able to stick with their rosters more. TSM kind of seems to still buck that trend of just like if they start losing, they start shifting things around, or they start drafting different and they start doing all these things differently instead of trying to be like, well, like, let's work on what we have now. Let's build the synergy that we have now and make slight adjustments. They always seem like they're just throwing big adjustments. Real quick, just to comment on it, Biofrost going to possibly to TSM or returning to TSM. I do think that's a good move. I do slightly question it, only for the simple fact of TSM has talked about in the past. I don't know if they talked about it recently. I didn't see it anywhere, but they've talked about in the past that they want a playmaking support. Biofrost is good, and I think that he's a really good leader now versus when he first was there. But I still don't think he is that core JJ-esque support where he will do these big plays. He will make the engage happen to start the snowball. I think he still kind of waits for somebody else to make that play. So I don't know if they're going to be getting much of a difference. And then on top of it with Smoothie, I think he is still way better than what I guess teams are doing with him. Of course he's been moving around team to team, so maybe we're just evaluating him differently or wrongly. Mm-hmm. But, I look back at his play when he was with C9, for instance, and that was really, really well. Of course, the struggles that happened when the roster changes happened. And of course, then he got replaced by Zazel, just because that was working out better. And I think that Smoothie can be that higher caliber player and can be, still one of the top tier supports in NA. I just think you have to pair him up with a better performing ADC than Sven was in recent times. And I think Stixxay could be that option or opportunity for Smoothie, where Stixxay is still a very solid ADC, still makes great plays, and of course still plays similar-esque style to Double Lift, where then, if he can take over, all Smoothie has to do is just help that snowball forward. Other thing I wanted to talk about real quick, just because, this did surprise me, and I will be echoing, I guess, kind of the words of a video that you sent me to kind of talk about was Immortals is coming in for Optic. Of course, Immortals bought out Optic and working things out. So, of course, now Immortals will be back in the LCS. Optic will be no longer there. So you would think, and I completely agree with this, that you would keep probably one of your better performing players, which was Crown. He carried that team essentially to its record and to where it was. Um, but the rumor is they're dropping him. No reason why, doesn't say. Obviously, one of the reasons could be money. They just purchased the team, and they do have other organizations or other teams in other games that they might budget-wise not be able to afford Crown. But aside from budgeting, how surprised are you that could be the move going on, is that Immortals is moving from Crown?
It's surprising considering the fact that he was the best performing player on the team. But as you said, I think money right now is just kind of the issue right now, because after a performance like that, Crown's going to be worth quite a bit. And there's rumors out there that, before I get into that, they did just purchase too a Call of Duty slot. And if I'm not mistaken, the number was somewhere around the 25 mil part. And so that's a lot of money, that's a ton of money investment into another esport. Mm-hmm. And so coming into right back into here, they just may not be able to budget those players right now. So you kind of keep, what you can, like, I've heard recently Dokwa Dardock Cody-san, because apparently Cody-san may not stay on 100 teams after his performance as well. And the biggest rumor that's going around right now is we're still not sure on mid lane, is Tucson coming over from Korea to play for IMT. So that's the biggest rumor going around linked to IMT right now, is Tucson, which I think he could be worth quite a bit of money too. But if they're like dead set on bringing in a support like that, it'll be hard to have him and Crown both with money. But it is surprising to drop a Crown, which makes me really interested to see where Crown ends up going if he does stay in NA. Because, I mean, honestly, mid lane wise, Crown, he definitely one of the top, or close to being the top performing mid laner this year in the LCS.
Oh yeah, and we of course we know from in the past, we know it currently too. Like mid lane is very important for your team to whether you're going to have a good winning record or a losing record. So Crown's performance, I thought for sure he was going to be the one that stays. So it leads me, as you said, money has to be the reason. It's not in performance. Unless there's some synergy, conflicts that are going on with Crown that we don't know about. But I should say, it's the Crown came here because of depression issues, things of that nature. Wanted to kind of revitalize his career here in NA after all of the pressure that came with being in the LCK. Winning Worlds, then of course being on Gen G, and them just basically laying a brick in the Worlds when they made it, and everyone expected them to kind of make it out, and they just fell flat, didn't even make it out of group stages. So he came over here to revitalize his career. He did that. I would clearly state he did that. He showed why he was at one point considered one of the best mid laners in the world. And I know it didn't start off very well, but it worked out better. So I don't know what's going on with the Immortals if they make the changes. Tucson coming over, if he comes over, that's great, but I don't see that as any sort of upgrade over Crown. Unless, again, if it's a financial money saving, cool, awesome. But I don't see that as a benefit. Unless Crown decided he wanted to leave. Like that, of course, makes it different. And then it's like Tucson's a good pickup. And I still think he's a good pickup, but you know what I'm meaning with weighing the options there. The other thing I want to talk about, just because we're talking about mid lane, is the report that came out from Jacob Wolf. And I'm trying to get it so I say it correctly, is that Dignitas, or which was Clutch Gaming, has made an agreement with Huni, their top laner, a 2-year contract extension worth $2.3 million. Not paid by Steve this time, but $2.3 million. And he also could be role swapping to mid lane. Kyle, your thoughts, one, on the signing, but then two, the idea of being, I guess, that successful, continuing the success in a different lane, especially for Huni and mid lane.
Huni's. I mean, it's a known fact that Huni has wanted to switch to mid lane for a while now. It's insane that they gave him that much money, which is reportedly guaranteed as well. So he, like you said, he gets all of it, which is insane, which gives him a lot of power, I feel, in this team. And I think if you've seen previously when he's had power for teams and kind of has a say in teams, they've kind of slowly gone hill as the more he was able to have control of the team. But Huni's an insane player. Like, I mean, he really is. But it does open up stuff, though, for the rest of that team. But it'll be really interesting to see what they end up doing around him, though, to benefit him towards the end of the split and even in Worlds, though. I mean, top lane right now, you can kind of play anything you want as it is. But he played a ton of mid laners top during Worlds. And I think it's just maybe, especially with that kind of offer and money, I think that's giving him the choice on saying, hey, you can play mid lane if you want to. But then I feel bad for Dominic because he really showed up too. And I'm curious on what ends up happening to him. But giving that much money to Huni, well deserved, don't get me wrong, but makes me question how much power and say he's going to have with the team around him. And that kind of worries me.
Yeah, I think if this is the case, Damonte is going to get picked up by some team. I don't know who it'll be. I don't know how much his contract will be or how long it will be. But he played well enough, and he did that with Echo Fox, and of course continuing it with Clutch Gaming. That he's played well enough. He's definitely earned a staying power, I should say, at the moment for playing in the LCS. Yeah, Huni's one of those players, at least for me. This is just my personal thoughts. You guys can sound off in the comments below if you think I'm completely wrong on this. Huni is one of those players that I think is the hype around him has started to exceed his play. So, of course, when Huni was with Fnatic, that guy was a god. Was played out of his mind, phenomenal player. When he came over here with Immortals, again, played out of his mind. Again, easily was the best top laner in North America. But then that later on towards I think it was the second split of Immortals, because I think he was only there for 2 splits, if I remember correctly. That things started to kind of go downhill, but he still played well. And then, of course, after that was when he went to SKT, and things didn't work out that great over there. I mean, he still did really well, of course, but I know he wasn't the caliber or at the highest level as they kind of expected. So then he shared time there, and then things started to get better as he was sharing time. And then at Worlds, he did okay, but not great. And then, of course, he comes back. And when he first was with Echo Fox, things looked like, man, he returned to form, because I think the first game he picked his, signature Lucian top lane and went off. And so people are like, wow, Huni's back. This is the Huni we all love and enjoy. And I like Huni, his character, his personality, I should say. But then, I don't know. he had a lot of, in my opinion, like forgettable games or games where you would almost forget that Hooney was there. And I think with Clutch Gaming, he started to step back up, but I still think people have that aura or that hype around him of fanatic Hooney or like
Yep.
early Immortals Hooney. I don't see that same Hooney. Not to say he can't get there. I think he can get back there, but I just don't see that. So then, in my opinion, I'm like, now you're telling me that Hooney is going to go from the top lane where he's been good but not great to go to mid lane. And I think, in my opinion, allows him extra cockiness to play players that, characters that he wanted to play in top lane regardless. And now he's going up against other people in the mid lane. I think this could come back to be a disaster. I think it would be one of those things where Hooney will. This may be the idea at first, but at some point they'll be like, Hooney, we're going to switch you back to top lane.
With a little bit more rumor mill around that team, a roster that I've seen out there in the rumors recently is how would you feel about this around Hooney? Haunter in the top lane, Sven in the jungle, Hooney mid, Arrow ADC, and Zazel as support. Or it's either Arrow or Sneaky, because Sneaky has also been reported to maybe go with Dig, which are trying to rebrand themselves, and that's a branding move, getting a name like Sneaky in there. What do you think of that lineup? Again, all rumors, but that the Wolf Bomb about the transfers for Sven and Zazel over to EG has fallen through. Apparently, that's either that was put on hold and it actually fell through on the Dig side of it, according to Travis Gafford. And how do you think that lineup shapes out to be if that ends up being something or somewhat like that?
So first takeaway is that's a lot of good names.
Yes.
Really good names. And if you're trying to rebrand or get people reinvested in your team that's making their first appearance back into the LCS, I think those are all names that are likable, have fan base followings, and you can easily get behind. Playing power or playing potential, that's when I start to question. Because there's a reason Haunter, went from being this really top-notch top laner for Gravity to going to play at TSM and, of course, playing for Golden Guardians, if I remember correctly. But he was never able to re-reach that playing potential or the way that he played when he was with Gravity. Sven Skaren, we've talked about this a number of times, so I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I still think Sven Skaren is a great player, and I think that's a huge jungler to pick up. Yeah, we've talked about it a number of times on my thoughts with Sven Skaren. In the bot lane, I already talked about it with Sneaky, so if it's Sneaky, awesome. If it's Arrow, I think he's not bad, but I don't think that he, again, at this point in his career, can be that guy that can take over a game and carry. And then, personally, me, I will say I didn't watch enough Cloud9 games to have a really good feel on Zazel, so I can't fully comment on my thoughts on Zazel. But with that all being said, that team, based off of performances that I've seen recently, falls heavily on Hooney and Sven Skaren's shoulders. And if they don't mesh or if they don't have that synergy, that team is going to falter or be near the bottom. So that's again another one where I'm like, I don't know if that's going to be enough power around it to make that Hooney mid lane really shine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, a lot of it goes around Hooney and how he performs. If the transfer to mid does end up happening.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. One quick thing. I know that this has now been told unlikely, but I just wanted to get your thoughts because we did discuss this a little bit beforehand. Is just the quick rumor that is again now listed as unlikely, but Licorice getting moved over to TSM. Just what we had talked about it before. What were your thoughts on that rumor that again has now been listed or thought as unlikely to happen?
It's not happening. Just drop it. No, no, I think with the blow up that C9's doing, I don't see Jack getting rid of Licorice. Like you said, I think that's like a 5% chance of that. According to others reports now that I've looked through, if Cloud9 was to transfer him, it would be in the upwards of $2 million that they would ask to in return for him, over 2 million. And I don't think teams are going to do it. It's just with paying Bjergsen, especially with TSM wanting, talks with TSM doing it. It'd be really hard to see C9 lose Licorice because I think that's who you're building around now. I think it's just I think if Sneaky's not there, it's Licorice's team now, and I mean having a NA developed player being easily the top 3 best NA top laner is huge for a team. He's way too valuable to let go for any price, personally.
I completely agree. Like we discussed before, the only way that I would see it happening is, as you kind of already said, the rumor is it's a lot of money. And two is that Jack already has his mind or eyes set on another top laner that he feels can perform similar level of playing that Licorice does. That's hard to find. So that's why I didn't see it as likely to begin with. I was kind of mind blown when that rumor was thrown out that would happen. When I thought, yeah, they're blowing up, they blow up the team. Okay, I like Licorice. I thought was going to be, of course, that one that stays, and of course now the rumor does look like he will be that one that stays if they blow up the team. But yeah, completely caught me off guard. Still don't see it as happening. Still don't see why it would happen. So yep, we're going to kind of throw that one into the back burner. Real quick, though. Oh, go ahead.
I'll give you 2 more small ones really quick. Well, they're not small. They would be huge, actually. 2 imports coming over. There's been slight talks because there's been talks that someday may leave 100T, which leaves a import slot open. And there's been little rumors going around about Gorilla coming over to NA officially and pairing back up with Bang, which would be extremely interesting for that team. I would love to see that bot lane personally in the LCS. That'd be pretty huge. And another rumor that I've heard, which would be absolutely mind-blowing to me personally, is there was a slight talk, which I'm giving this like a 4% chance, is C9's been in contact with Yukol again, apparently, and that would blow my mind getting upset in him. That'd be something C9 in my mind would never do, being a budget-friendly team. And if they did that, my mind would be blown. And those are 2 little other options that I've heard out there, little minor, they'd be major rumors, but nothing like no major sources or credible sources have stated that. And after a little, your thoughts on that, I do just really quickly, curiosity, with a little bit of want to talk about your team as well with TL. There's been rumors on there's huge question marks around Jensen leaving to another team because I guess there's been some inside stuff. Not really sure. We know how Jensen can get. And if Xmithy does decide to retire, who would you like to see them pick up? But I'll hand it over to you now on your thoughts.
All right, ask me like 6 things and then tell me. Okay, now go. No, so I will say real quick with the UCal thing, keep that, in Cloud9 for you because it's not going to get reached. Like that's not going to happen. If it happens, I will start our next podcast with me just start going, Kyle, I'm sorry. I will we won't even say welcome to the Riff. I'll just go, Kyle, I'm sorry. I was wrong. No, that I don't see that happening. I don't remember what the other thing was that you said. I just now my mind went to Team Liquid, and I just
Gorilla teaming up with Bang.
Yeah, another one that you guys can sound off in the comments below because I'm probably going to be the only one who thinks this, but like I don't think it's going to work. I honestly don't think having both your import slots as your ADC and support coming over. We saw it with TSM with Sven and Mithy. I know they're not Sven and Mithy, but I just don't see it working. I don't see it working. So, real quick with Team Liquid. So the Jensen thing, I will personally say, does scare me. Only for the simple fact of they heavily recruited him to come to this team, of course, to try and go and compete for a world finals. It didn't happen, but at the same time, for me personally, I saw it more as you could see Team Liquid had taken that next step to potentially be competing for a world final at some point. They just didn't mesh as quickly as some of the other teams. That's completely fine. And on top of it, arguably, I know that technically no team from their group made it, but Team Liquid had a really hard group to get out of. So, in my opinion, I was happy with how it turned out. I would have been happier if they had, of course, advanced, but they had a very hard group to get out of, and of course, it just didn't happen. So, not upset there. But if Jensen leaves, I think if you're Steve and you're Team Liquid, you really have to go, where do we go from here? Because you need another player of Jensen's caliber and playing style to actually go and compete at the world titles. We see it in every team that has won a finals is their mid laner plays lights out. And so, again, we've talked about it. Your mid lane is so important to your team long term. There's, of course, every position is important. But if you're looking at world success, your mid laner is very important. And I don't have an answer of who that person is off the top of my head right now. You're smiling, so what's...
It's not going to happen, but it's Steve. I'll give this a 0.0000001% chance, but it is Steve. If Jensen leaves, Baker's contract's up in 3 days.
I was not expecting that one.
I'm just throwing it out there. It is Steve. I'm sure he called out and said, "How much do you need for him?" I guarantee he's made a call. But,
I was waiting for you to say, "Remember, Immortals are dropping Crown." That's what I was waiting for that. Faker didn't even come to my mind. Obviously, I'd be super happy if Faker came over, but I don't think Faker's coming over.
No.
He will never. I think, personally, if Faker ends up leaving at any point SKT, it's for another LCK team. I don't see him leaving the region at all. Anyway. I would be happy with Crown as well, just speaking, because actually the more I thought about it, I was waiting for you to tell me who it was. I was Crown actually would be a pretty good option, but
that'd be fun.
Yeah. So again, I will say though, besides Crown, and even then, I still don't know if it will fully work. Well, I guess it would because core JJ, but I don't know who you do that, so that does scare me as a Team Liquid fan. For Xmithy, yeah, there's rumors he's going to retire, and if he retires, I do think that that's a pretty big blow, only for the simple fact of, Xmithy has always kind of been that rock with every team he plays on. He's that, consistent performer. You're never going to get worse than what you, you see his games. His games are usually always the same. And at the same time, he's a huge leader, so that's hard shoes to fill. So one rumor I know that's out there that I do think could end up working if it does come true is Broxa is supposed to be leaving Fnatic, and I him going to Team Liquid, I think that could work, and I think that he plays a similar play style to Xmithy. I don't think he's as consistent as Xmithy, but I also think he has a higher ceiling than Xmithy when he plays. So I could see that working. Um, you know, thinking around the league, just names that are out there. Personally, I'm a big fan, a fan of Self-Made. If Self-Made for some reason was able to come over, I already know that he's not rumored to be coming. So it's not. I'm not trying to sit here saying like. I'm not trying to sit here and say like, yeah, Self-Made coming to TL, sign it up here, But I'm just saying like, just names out there. Self-Made would be, I think, a really, really solid player over here. Other than that, I don't know. That's such a hard role. And I think for me, as well as a team, like being a Team Liquid fan, knowing how good this team is, I'm almost like, don't blow it up. Don't do anything. Use this team again for another split. And you could always make if it doesn't seem like things are getting better or they're not playing faster, do a summer transfer. Find a team that'll do a summer transfer. There's usually a team that has a really good player. Typically there is a really good jungler out there that the team overall is just not really performing, so they kind of are looking to go a different direction, and you could look there. But that's kind of my thoughts on that whole thing.
Personally, if Xmithy does not retire, I think they resign him. Like, I think that's what it's going to end up being. Biggest question
totally.
mark, like you said, Jensen. But you also got. I know he's been around for a while, but another guy was playing really well is Meteos. He might. It'd be interesting with his with him and Jensen, two heavy-minded people. Mm-hmm. But if Jensen's not there, then that could maybe be something that you can go for. There's guys out there. It's just a matter of the biggest question is Xmithy. Like, to me, if I were a TL fan, I'd be hoping for Xmithy to resign.
Yeah, I will say, as I said, Jensen leaving scares me, but Xmithy retiring is scarier, in my opinion, because again, he's such a rock and he's such a leader that's hard. That's hard to replace on any team and in any sport in any level of play when you have such a rock and they leave. Like, that's just so hard to replace.
Exactly, and I think Jensen, if he ends up leaving, I think that's because Steve has paid somebody else that's legitimately better.
Hey, like I said, I made the joke. Not paid by Steve. Hooney's not paid by Steve, and he's getting the bucks. So real quick, because we are already getting close to an hour, so I just want to kind of run through a couple of quick things, just getting rapid fire thoughts real quick. So, real quick, rumors: Self-Made joining Fnatic.
I like it. Because the other rumor was Nemesis going over to play for.
That was my next one.
But them being really good friends and playing together before, it'd make way more sense for Self-Made to go to Fnatic because it's a bigger brand. I think it just would fit out a bit better for them.
Darsay going to the LPL. He would be the first European going to the LPL.
This is something I really hope happens because I think it opens up doors for so much more, But I think it'd be really hard for him to find something over there. I don't know. But it'd be interesting seeing him go over there and not speaking their language. He'd be the only person. It'd be really hard. But I think it'd be very entertaining. And I kind of hope for it to happen just because it opens the gates for EU players first to go elsewhere.
So I know you're hoping this doesn't happen as well, but Upset leaving Shulko, but he joins Origin instead.
I think that's one. I think that's more likely than the C9 thing. I think that's been set for a while now. I believe Upset that last year was rumored, if I'm not mistaken, him joining Origin as well.
I think you're right.
It's something he's kind of wanted. So if C9 doesn't offer him a ridiculous amount of money to bring him over, or TSM or any of them, I think Origin's the most likely one, just to stay over in the LEC. I'm not sure if Upset's a guy that really wants to leave yet, so I
Uh,
think that's most likely.
Hansama going to Rogue.
That would be insane because Rogue is a team with a lot of really really good young talent. Hansama just boosts that even more. And that team, if they make some those moves, certain moves like that, and with Hansama being added to it, LEC is going to have to watch out for that team. That team's definitely in the up to up, especially with them being such young talent and really really good young talent.
Yeah, I completely agree. And a last one that I want to talk about, and we normally don't talk about these, but I did want to say it just because we talked about them earlier. Doing B retiring. What's your thoughts?
Um, it's sad for FPX, and he's young. He's 21, I believe, but he's married. He has his wife and stuff, and he'll be able to um spend more time with her and his family. But I mean, as others have stated, what better way to retire than winning your region and then winning worlds and destroying in the grand finals and having the run that he had, being the main guy, the top of his, I mean, best mid laner this year. You could almost say. I mean, what better way to go out than on top? You can't top it unless he does the exact same thing again the following season, which would be almost impossible to do. Like, it'd be so hard to repeat what he has done this year. And good for him if he does. I mean, why not go out on top? He's made what he's made. He has a family and everything else. Enjoy the time. I would miss seeing him play because I personally would love to watch him more games over there. But hey, why not go out on top?
Completely agree. All right, so final thing that we're wrapping this up is a little curveball because we're changing it up a little bit from what we originally discussed. Is just free agency day. It's looming. We've talked about all these rumors. Again, keep in mind, guys, we talked about rumors. None of this is confirmed, so Doing B has not retired yet, but it is a rumor. Kyle, free agency starts. The first story comes in. What do you think it'll be?
I think it honestly, for a team that waits and kind of picks up what they can and waits a little bit and picks up the later players to make them better. I think Cloud9 comes out big early. I think they come out big early. I think Jack has his team ready and set. In the Discord channel, he said he has his roster basically set. Of course, things could change from now till the Monday the 18th. But I think Cloud9 makes their big splash, and I think there's going to be a name in there that surprises a lot of us.
All right, that's fair. I think kind of going overseas is I think Fnatic finishes their team first, and like we'll find out who's staying, who's going, what's the deal. I think that Fnatic is going to just be ahead of the game, especially because if Reckless leaves, I think they need to be ahead of the game because a lot of fans, even though they're going to be maybe looking that they kind of expected that to going to happen, you're still going to have a lot of upset fans with Reckless leaving. So I think that's going to be one of the first press releases that are out there is Fnatic's finalized roster.
Oh, for sure. Because Reckless is you're basically NA sneaky or EU sneaky. I mean, the guy that's been with the same team forever, so it's loved by many fans. But if it's time to move on, it's time to move on. But hey, I mean, Monday's coming around the corner. It's really exciting. The Wolf even has his own show that he's going to be reporting a lot of this stuff and his rumors, and he's going to be able to actually say things for once. So I'm stoked. I mean, I love the off season, so I'm really excited to see these some of this stuff, if any of it comes in fruition and stuff. So
yeah, and I will say just real quick before we wrap up the show is I'm really glad that Jacob Wolf has his own show that's going to be going on for free agency, and it is on November 18th. Well, at least for us here, it's November 18th. But I will say it's slightly disappointing that he has his own show because there's always so many wolf bombs, and
There
that
is.
this time we don't have any because he's waiting till the show goes on.
Which I will just say, if I was ESPN and Wolf, I really wish he would. I mean, I know he announced the Hooney thing and the EG and C9 transfer, which kind of fell through as stated. But I wish he would slowly hint some stuff, like from now to Monday. Just start hinting some things, just a little bit. Just get people excited for the show.
Yep, I completely agree. Well, that is all the time we have on today's episode of The Rift. Thank you guys all for waiting patiently for this episode or this show, I should say, to get back up and running. But we are going to be putting out more content and being more consistent on this, and hopefully you guys continue to join us along for the journey. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and you can follow both on SoundCloud and, of course, on our Facebook page, as well as on YouTube. Making sure that you guys like, comment, let us know what you think. Let us know what we got wrong. Let us know what you think that we should improve upon, because that's what we want to do, is continue to get this show better for you. For the last time on this episode, I am Jeremy Culver, a.k.a. Darsay.
And I'm Kairu, aka Gloria.
And we will always be back for next time to give you guys more news from the Rift.